Hi, everybody. I was going to do a in-person meeting with all of you this week, but my wife has begun her labor journey. So we're expecting our next son, and hopefully he'll come sometime this week since she started. But I was afraid to schedule a meeting for the middle of this week or the end of the week and then have to abruptly cancel. So we have some exciting news. We're expanding our school again. We have the unprecedented wait list numbers that are rising again. We have about 16 or so on our wait list, and 10 of those are itty bitties, infants, and parents are patiently waiting for us to do something. And so we decided that it was time for us to look holistically at our entire building. And so with the help of modern technology, I thought this video might be a little bit of an easier way for you to, at your leisure, learn about some of the changes that are coming up. We're going to implement these changes during the Easter break. So while you are enjoying your holiday, we're going to be making some changes to some of the classroom locations. We're going to add an additional classroom. We're going to add a classroom by name to an existing space that used to accommodate another classroom. And then we're going to also change the way that our floor plans are throughout our entire building between the preschool level and the daycare level. That's kind of an overview. So on your screen, you're going to see the new overview now called the Saint Miriam Pathway. These handouts are going to be available to you in our school starting next week, and they're also going to be posted online, and you'll be able to download them, of course, from either the Saint Miriam Parish website or also the Saint Miriam School website. And all of us are available to answer your questions. So, how did this all come about? Well, I'd like to use my son, Jameson, as an example. Jameson was born in the pandemic, right at the height of the pandemic. He was born in April of 2020. We were in lockdown, and then we brought him home. We had to navigate a world with a new child without any help because nobody was allowed to visit us, especially during those first 60 days before he was inoculated. And so it was tough. And when the school opened, we had to make the decision on when to place him in the school. And like a lot of parents, we waited because we were afraid. But we did put him in school. He was in the itty bitty room. He was considered an infant by age. But while his speech was a little delayed because of everyone wearing masks and him not being able to socialize as quickly as many children, what we did find was that his gross motor skills were developed rapidly. And so he could literally bulldoze over a child that was kind of teetering in the middle of the room. And so on the advice of some of his educators, we moved him from the itty bitty room into the next level. And that's where he excelled. He started to pick up speech. He started to move and shake with the rest of them. He started to use his gross motor skills, climbing and crawling much more quickly. And then eventually getting to standing. And even his speech was improving. He learned some rudimentary sign language. He was able to tell us when he wanted more food or when he wanted water. And so we were really excited. And none of that would have happened if we would have allowed our opinion to keep him in the itty bitty room stand. So sometimes we have to let go and yield to the experts. And that's what we did. And we've done that right along, and Jameson's doing quite well. So when we started to look at adding in another itty bitty room, expanding the way that our school operates, we decided to look holistically at the entire footprint of our building. So we have 2 levels, and you'll see through this pathway that we're going to go from daycare level 1, which is including our new itty bitty room. So you have itty bitty 1 and 2, then over to this newly created room across the hall that we're going to call movers and shakers. It doesn't matter which itty bitty room the infants start in. When they start to get closer to the end of that age range, or when their gross motor skills or development needs necessitated, we're going to make a recommendation to our parents to move that child over to what we're going to call affectionately the mover and shaker room. That's where they're going to start to really explore with their crawling and creeping abilities and with other like-minded children and with their ability, and they're going to learn a little bit more how to socialize, interact with others. And then when they're ready, they're going to move over to toddlers. And once they move over to toddlers, they're going to advance And then the recommendation will be to move them to the Undercroft level, where they're going to end up in one of the two beginner rooms, beginner 1 and 2. Right now we have only one beginner room down there. It's Devin's room, but we're going to add a second one, which was already technically licensed. We just never kind of turned it on because we weren't sure if we were going to need it. But we are going to need that to accommodate the growth that we're experiencing. And then when they're ready, they're going to go from one of those two rooms over across the hall, and they're going to make their way into the actual preschool wing. And that's where they're going to find preschool classrooms 3. And then STEAM technology is going to be where our outreach room used to be. We're going to move that. And then, of course, pre-K 4 and all the way to the end of the hall. And the last room, of course, eventually becomes a kindergarten again once we achieve the numbers that we need in order to have that as a full-time kindergarten room. So if you look at the overall schematic at the bottom, it shows you a little caveat. It says that we're going to tentatively use this age range as a guide. So you'll see yellow is daycare, blue is preschool, red is for our STEAM technology room. Melissa's also going to take STEAM technology from room to room, but she also wanted a dedicated space, so we're going to accommodate that by moving our outreach around a little bit. And then we're going to look at development, growth, the needs of the child, whether they move forward or back, and it's not punitive, it's simply to allow them to excel in the future. Those changes or those moves could be for a matter of weeks or a matter of months, or it could be for the entire school year. It all depends on how they're responding. We're going to look at it with our child educators, our administrative staff for the school, but also with our child life specialists to make the best decisions and then recommend those to you as parents. That's going to allow us to kind of streamline the building. So if you look at the next screen, you're going to find the schematic for our main level. And you'll see that we're adding in a new itty bitty room. The primary itty bitty room is the one that's at the end of the hall. And then we're going to add in itty bitty 2, which is kind of a dual room. We're going to use both sides of that room for itty bitties. And then no matter which room the itty bitties are in, they're going to cross over the hall to that new movers and shakers room when they're ready. And then from there, they're going to cross over and they're going to go to the new toddler room. And once they graduate out of that toddler room, that's where you're going to see the next slide, which is our preschool level room. And you'll notice that the beginners are still considered yellow. And the reason is because it's still part of our daycare side. Daycare is where the children are cared for, they're kind of held more, they're supported more, they're still transitioning through learning how to socialize and eat and develop and hit those goals, moving from potty training. All of those things are happening. And so we still consider those beginner levels as part of our daycare. Once they're ready, developmentally and age-wise, they're going to cross over the corridor again, and they're going to end up in that blue area, which is our preschool. Preschool is where they start to get more structure. So, they learn how to line up and eat together at tables and go to recess together and form all of those rudimentary skills that they're going to need in order to start to learn to prepare themselves for kindergarten and then first grade. So it's a little more structured. So daycare, I like to consider it kind of like the way we do it at home, right? You love your children, you hold them more, you coddle them more, you give them safety. But when they transfer over to preschool, it's not that you take away all those wonderful warm feelings, but you add a little more structure when they're cognitively and able to, by growth and developmental wise, to accept those changes. And then they're going to excel through that all the way through to the end of our school. And then they're going to transition over to either a kindergarten or first grade class, depending on when they leave us. So those are the Saint Miriam Pathway, the new floor leveling system, the schematic for where they move from one to another. It's all on those 3 really wonderful slides that we just showed you. It's a lot, but it's exciting and it makes more sense. It allows you to know that we're watching your child with an eye towards their growth and development. We're not just moving them from one room to another simply because their age says that it's time. We're looking at them with an eye towards their care, their development, and their growth. We're taking care of their safety and health needs. We're trying to allow them to excel in an environment that will support that ability to move forward. And it also allows the levels of our building to make more sense, to move them from one side to the other and then back again like we're doing now is complicated. And it also increases the chance that the child is going to feel out of place because they're going from one environment to another, even though it's in the same building. So what we're doing now is we're going to allow them to move kind of methodically, carefully, with some pre-planning in place. And we're going to also have the ability then to move them from one space to another, especially the bigger jumps from upper level to lower level, just for a few hours a day, and then move them back so that they kind of transition more slowly with the support of our educational staff and also our developmental team and our child life specialists. So my email is at the bottom. Brother Sean's email is also located there. If you have any concerns or questions, you can certainly email them. As we get closer to this change, which is going to happen again over the April Easter holiday break, with the support of our educators, as we start to prepare buying the needed equipment and making those changes and getting our Octal license updated, we're available. So if you have any concerns or questions, you can always email them to us, or if you'd like an in-person meeting, obviously we'll certainly make that happen as quickly as we can. Thank you for listening to me today. It's an exciting time at Saint Miriam once again as we grow to allow other folks to enjoy one of the best schools in our region. We're proud of what we created here, and I thank you for being the best part of Saint Miriam, one of our families. Thanks. Bye.